Right now, guys, I wanted to change the tone a little bit. So last couple of weeks have been pretty tough. I would say that's a little bit of an understatement. But it's been tough on everybody, and relatively speaking, I've been telling everybody, from a perspective standpoint, we gotta stay positive, and we gotta understand that there's a lot of people out there that have it way worse than we do. But the main thing I want to do, and what I'm going to be doing with these next couple interviews over the next couple of days, starting today with Matt. Tomorrow we have Mike Cox from Mortgage Nerds, broker in Wisconsin, and Scott Shang, broker in California. So we're really going to focus on getting back to being productive, using this time to implement some strategy, execute on some changes, and the perspective that I would say that I had in a call this morning with Mike Cox, and we were talking about this, like when it comes to marketing and doing social content, is it really is like working out. It's like nobody, well, for the most part, outside of like people that are like sickos, nobody really likes working out. But like when you do it, it feels good, and like you're done, you're happy you did it, and then the next day when you're going to do it again, you don't want to do it again, and you hate doing it, but like once you do it, you feel better. And it's the same thing with social media marketing. Is like, once you do it and once you get in a rhythm of doing it and you have momentum, there's no turning back. But it is the ultimate brand recognition tool. So, Matt Gougé is a top broker LO. He became a broker. He came over to the broker channel about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah, May of 2018. So almost been 2 years.
Coming up on 2 years. So interesting time for him, obviously being a broker, being able to get the perspective of, knowing what his friends in retail are dealing with and dealing with what we're dealing with over here. I wanted to have him come on and share, how he's getting through it. He's very positive. And, Matt, how are you getting through it?
Well, I think having some perspective helps, right? I just got off the call. I've got a LaTip group, and LaTip is a networking group for small businesses. And obviously nobody can congregate and get together. Our group's got about 30 people. And so we did a Zoom call this morning, and, even if it's harder than it once was, like we've got to have some perspective and be grateful that we're even still doing business. I've got restaurant owner, car wash owner, a lot of small businesses that are shut down, out in California, they're just shut down. Some of these businesses have $20,000 a week in payroll, and, they're obviously, suffering and worried about, a business they've had for 25 years just collapsing if they can't get, back to work and back operating and paying their people, whatnot. So I think I try to, remind myself that, I'm too blessed to be stressed.
Yeah.
And, things change, and you've got to get 3 verbal verifications of employment. And you've got to get a letter the day of funding, things like that, while, more work and more steps than it was last month. Like we're still able to close loans, and we should be, super grateful for that. So I'm optimistic that we'll come through this and get out of this. But even while we're in this, I'm just happy to be working. And, if you're a loan officer that talks to the public, I'm sure you're like me, where you're talking to people every single day that are calling, asking about mortgage forbearance, asking, what they should do in their predicament. They're not able to make their mortgage payment, and they're struggling. So I feel like it would be, pretty lame of me, somebody who's still able to work, to be, crying
down and out and crying about
that. But these loans are harder than they were last month,
but in perspectively, I think the thing that I've been keeping in mind is I talk to a lot of retail people. So one of my close friends is a market leader for a big retail lender, one of the biggest in the country. And we were talking earlier this week, and he was telling me, my company got rid of forward locks on government on Monday, so I can't even lock a loan. Like we can't lock loans until the loan's approved and the appraisal's in. And they just raised our minimum credit score up to 680 on Govy. And he's telling me all the things that are changing. I'm like, yeah, that's happening over here, that's happening over there. But in the back of my mind, I'm sitting there saying, man, like I thought before the value of being a broker was just best price. But actually, right now, the optionality is everything, because certain lenders are willing to take risks that other lenders aren't, and certain lenders have too much exposure to certain things that other ones don't. So you have all this ability to sit there and say, hey, even though I haven't worked with this lender in 6 months, or they're not one of my primary guys, they're still doing 640, or they're still doing this. Like, I could take there. How is that, factored into your playbook? Because I know you're pretty much a big UWM guy, but I'm sure you've made some adjustments.
Yeah. I mean, me and my team have diversified certainly over the last month, and opened up stuff with Home Point and Orion and some other lenders. And that's a huge value add, because I've got tons of friends in retail. And then, it's interesting to see, the public, clients. I'm client facing so much, having so many conversations, and, somebody who's at Answer Home Loans posted something, and on their feed, somebody said, "Hey, my loan officer over at, local direct lender said I can't lock my loan, that banks aren't locking loans right now." And the consumers have no idea. They just think that, like, this is a new rule with mortgage. Yeah. And luckily, as a broker, you say, "Oh, no, that's not everybody. That's that specific direct lender who's doing that." And sure, on the wholesale side, some banks are doing that, but not all. So that optionality is going to be huge, because as things change, there's just going to be certain clients that, either they can't lock, or in some cases, like, they can't get their loan done because certain companies have gone to 680, or they've lowered their DTI to 40%, whatever it is. Having that optionality has always been something that's been, a great tool of being a broker. And it should, this year especially, be something that the brokers are putting out there and telling clients.
And I agree, because, like, I do think there's going to be, I think there's going to be fallout, and I hate to say, I look forward for fallout. There's fallout. It's good, honestly, for the pros, the people that take their profession serious, that when we have cycles like this, a percentage of people in all of our industry, the loan officers and companies, are going to fall to the wayside. They're going to fall out. And the people that take this seriously and are pros, and they're in it for the long haul, they're going to thrive. But the one thing I will tell you is that, like, I was forwarded an email from a retail LO, and the email was from their company. And this guy, all he does is 660 to 680 government loans. And, like, that's his wheelhouse. And the company had sent an email out saying they're getting rid of it. And he sent an email back saying, how can you do this? Like, this is my whole business, blah, blah, blah. Basically, his manager, like, just, deal with it, and, like, get over it, adjust. And, like, we're all making adjustments, but at the same time, our adjustments are, the ability to go to another lender. And I try to keep that in perspective for certain people, because a lot of people just, like, they'll want to focus, be like, this is what I did all my loans with before, and that's what I want. And I'm just going to basically bitch about it until it returns. Right. And that's just, like, I mean, that's not a healthy mindset. At some point, you got to make adjustments.
Right. And change is uncomfortable at times, and growth hurts. But I look at it in a positive light. We've got 85 loan officers at Answer Home Loans, and we've got an internal chat. And so whenever anybody gets on there and they're talking about this sucks, that sucks, I understand there's some camaraderie on this is shitty. But, I try to jump in and say, listen, what about this and this? What about these positive things? And, provide a little bit of optimism to it, because, sure, things aren't as good as they once were for us, for realtors, for, small business owners across the country. But, I agree that, bitching about it isn't going to help anybody. And honestly, it's forcing a lot of loan officers to get better. Yeah. And like you said, the attrition, you're going to get better or you're going to die. And in my opinion, like, that's going to better serve the consumers. If only good loan officers are left, if real estate changes, and my local association goes from 7,000 realtors to 4,500, those 4,500 are going to collectively be a little bit better than they were, when they're at 7,000. So I'm excited for it. I think, had a call yesterday with a coaching buddy of mine, and he said, to be completely honest, Matt, I kind of go back and forth between, like, fear and anxiety and like excitement for opportunity. And I think, being transparent and honest about that, like, we're all going to feel different during different times. Some days we're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming, the amount of change, and it's hard. And then other days we're going to be like, you know what? I'm up for the challenge. I'm excited for it. I know that I'm growing. I'm learning 5 different lenders, that if this shitstorm didn't happen, I might not have, forced myself to do that. I might not have diversified like I did. But now, coming out of it, I'm that much more of a better of a loan officer.
That's
I
right.
can tell my clients, if you've got VA, I know where to send those that have super sharp pricing, because I've used that lender now. And if you've got this type of loan, I know exactly where you're going to fit and where I can best serve you. So,
and even on the other side of it, when it comes to the markets and the economy and the impact, like we're spending way more time than we've probably spent in a long time on things that are not our normal day to day when it comes to like what's going on with rates, what's going on with MBS. Like we've really had to, focus on that. And what I like about your model, and I think this is really going to be the area of focus I want to get into, is just so everybody knows, like the way I met Matt is while I was still, involved in my broker shop at Garden State Home Loans, I was on a advisory council that UWM had, and UWM basically has like a, it's a combination of their top broker owners, top broker LOs, and it's some creative people that have good strategies on a advisory council where we met twice a year, and that's where I met Matt, and basically I would sit there, and sometimes, you sit on those advisory councils and they can get kind of like, I would, in certain situations, you're sitting there like, half this stuff is like, you're hearing from people is stuff that like, we already figured out. So we get a little bored, but you really kind of lit up the room whenever you spoke. You always had like really good strategy, talked about, whether it's milestone campaigns or the way that you market to your realtors or the way you build efficiencies into your processes with video. So, that's how we start developing our relationship. So for you, I know video is a big part of what you do. What's your daily routine? How do you go about, everything A to Z on your average day?
I think, to preface all of that and just to start, adding value to clients, to realtor partners, to all referral partners is like an LO's number one goal. And if that's like, your overarching business strategy, that's all you really need to know.
And let's talk about that, because that is actually something that people don't. When because Gary Vee says a lot, I say a lot. A lot of people say add value, and there's this misconception of what value is. And like,
yeah.
like to me, the value is like if I watch something and I learn something, I'm motivated by something, I change my perspective on something, I add perspective on something. If it alters me, it makes me better or grow, or like I picked up something in any way, it's adding value. A lot of people think adding value is like, hey, I printed my flyer for my realtor today.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think that right now is more important than ever. Just a quick example is yesterday, I was thinking about my realtor partners, and I was thinking about how much, especially in California, they're unable to show houses. If they can get out and show houses, it's limited. They've got to use precautions. And, to be completely honest, there's a bunch of people that just pressed pause and said, hey, I'm going to wait this out. Maybe in 2 to 4 weeks, I'll go out and look at houses. But if I don't have to buy, I'm going to hold off on that. And so thinking about them and how, from a guy who gets a lot of realtor referral business, I know what I'm expecting in referral business in April. And as that slows down, it tells me that, hey, realtors aren't as busy as they were. And I think everybody probably understands that. And, talking one-on-one with 5, 6, 8 realtors a week, the conversation was kind of similar with, so-and-so wants to wait. So-and-so wants to wait. This person, is not doing anything. I thought to myself, what can we do in the next 30 to 45 days to serve that realtor and serve their clients that's going to help us out June, July, and August? And, what I did yesterday, you can see it's on my Facebook page. I sent that video in a text. I text like 60 realtors, but then I also put it on my Facebook page, is I said, hey, listen, let's get your clients who might be waiting, who might be buying in May, June, or July, but have told you pause, or you can't show them houses, so they're not super motivated right now. Let's take them, run them through the pre-approval process. One, we're going to make sure that they still qualify, because somebody who had a 644 FHA, loan, 644 FICO FHA with no reserves, like we want to relook at that, make sure we know what lender we're going to send that loan to. But let's get them pre-approved. Let's show them 375, 400, 425 loan options. Let's educate them, because that type of stuff for the end consumer is value. You add that value and educate them when it is time to buy and they're out looking. For the realtor, I'm trying to convey this to realtors. It's going to be a lot easier to show them the house they want, have them make a confident decision because they've done the research and they've seen they feel confident in the financing aspect of it. Whereas, you don't engage with these clients, you don't add any value to them and show them the mortgage stuff. They might walk through a house and be like, well, I don't know, we got to talk about it. And then, they're not sure. And so, I'm telling realtors, let us nurture that client for the next 30 to 45 days, add a bunch of value to them. And I talked to a bunch of them about, even doing that if they're not going to use me. Because at the end of the day, if you as a loan originator say, I want to add value to the end client, I want to add value to the realtors, I want to pour as much information, education, and value as I can, and just whoever works with me, trust me, that works.
It's true. Honestly, that's a great point. Like making the investment in your customers and spending a little bit extra time now specifically, it's going to get you a stickier and better relationship. But the other thing is the likelihood they're going to refer customers to you, like they will become like when you add value to somebody, they will become your evangelist because they're like, man, I feel so confident about buying a home. I'm going to buy a home. This guy taught me so much. I felt so vulnerable before. And like that's something you can't overstate is I actually had a former customer of mine when I was still originating call me yesterday. And he's like, hey, I called Garden State and they said you weren't there. I just want to reach out to you, see if you went somewhere else. I was like, no, I'm out. I'm not doing originations anymore. You're good there. And I kind of told him, you'll get taken care of. He's like, oh man, he's like, I swore I would never use anybody. We spent so much time, got my credit score up, all this stuff. But like, if you turn somebody into an evangelist for you, whether or not you do another transaction for them or not, it's what they will produce. They will get you more clients. They will think of you first. And I think when I look at you, do yourself a favor, guys, if you could go on Matt's social media feed, you'll see it both on Facebook and LinkedIn. Does a phenomenal job.
Matt, the Mortgage Guy YouTube channel too. I'm gonna start pumping out some more YouTube content.
That's another great point. But like Matt does an unbelievable job of like understanding who he's talking to, and I think that's one of the things people on social make a mistake of. Like they'll sit there and talk like, "Hey, I'm worried about loan officers reacting to my content but really I need to be talking to consumers and I need to be talking to realtors that don't know what's going on." And I need to, kind of flex my knowledge on them, not, hey, I'm going to talk to loan officers and we're going to use high level terminologies that consumers don't understand. And you do a phenomenal job with this.
That's always been my thing too. My wife, bless her, she's an angel for a number of reasons. But from the very start, she told me if I ever got into fancy mortgage talk, because I'm a finance guy, finance degree, math nerd. And so like I can nerd out on numbers and math and mortgage stuff. But what my wife told me early on, it was some of the best advice I ever got, was pretend like you're talking to my grandma, and explain it in a way that she can understand. And so if you look at all my YouTube videos, I think when I first started the channel, I said, trying to explain stuff in layman's terms where it's super simple, because the average consumer who's, a firefighter or a nurse or whatever their job is, like they don't know mortgage and finance. And so putting out a bunch of content that's just super, consumer facing and simple, easy to understand. I can't tell you how many clients I get that fill out an application online. We reach out to them and say, hey, thanks for filling out your app. Here's the supporting docs we need. Who do I have to thank for referring you? Oh, I found you on YouTube. And actually, like over the last 3 months, I've probably watched like 45 of your videos. Thank you so much. Like me and Ben Lavender talked about it at the AIME conference down in Irvine. Like there's no way to scale to have like 3 months worth of conversations with 1,000 people if it's not video. And I've got like so many people, they feel like they know me. They're already sold before I even, it's not me talking rate or how I'm the best broker in town or any of that. It's like, you've already educated me because I've watched 45 different YouTube videos. I know what impound account is. I know what supplemental taxes are. I know, how to read a loan estimate. I know how to compare loans apples to apples. Like that's the type of stuff that's out there. And I recorded it once. I thought about the end consumer when I recorded it and tried to speak to them in layman's terms. And now, I don't know how many hundreds of hours of views per week, but like, trust me when I tell you or anybody watching, I'm nothing special. I put out content based on questions I get, and it's that simple.
And I think that's the key right there is like, guys, like, because I just don't want to go past that. Is like, What is value? You as a loan officer, everybody out there, we get asked the same questions by buyers, first-time home buyers every single time. And like the fact that we don't recognize that like each one of those questions is content and value, and you could put it on YouTube, and every time a customer asks, you can send them a link. Like who pays for the appraisal? When does the appraisal get done? When's the home inspection get done? Like these are questions that by answering them, I know we take it for granted because this is what we do every day. But the truth is like, that's what you do. And I see the comments and I see the feedback and people actually are like, oh, okay, I get it now. That's what a home inspection is.
Well, a cool byproduct of that too is imagine, most people don't want to get in front of the camera. They're afraid they're going to, come across, or they're going to fumble F it or whatever. So if you're going to make a video on gift of equity transaction, you know what you do? You research it for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. You know what happens when you do that? You become a better loan officer. So over the course of, the last 5 years, if I was going to do, a video on anything, I would spend a little bit of time. And I'm not talking about, I'm not the type who's going to overly research. This is just not me. I'm just the kind of wing it, one shot, no edit type of guy, but a little bit of research. And, there's some saying somewhere where, you do something, you learn it, X% of the way, you teach somebody something, you retain it or learn it even more. Like just the act of doing those videos, I think is one of the reasons why I've retained some of the knowledge I've learned. And most originators would agree and understand, like you do something 4 years ago and you have to learn a new guideline for one, specific loan, you're going to forget it. And you're going to say, what was it like, the self-sufficiency test on FHA? I don't remember. But I remember it because I did it on a few transactions. Then I researched it, made sure I knew it really well so I could make a video on it. Then I released a video on it. So now, if you talk to me about, self-sufficiency on FHA purchase on a 2 to 4 unit, like I know it because of that. And so, it's hard to measure that. People, don't want to spend the time on video, or they don't want to do that because, it's like, what's my ROI? How many leads am I going to get from YouTube? Or how much, business am I going to get from it? Like, how do you measure becoming a better loan officer, speaking at a higher level, having a better level of understanding? Because now I'm reaping a bunch of rewards that were, not even my intent. I wanted to become a better loan officer. I wanted to put out good content and put out good information to help educate people. Now you put a lead pops website in place that captures, people coming to your website. YouTube drives a bunch of traffic to the website, and then it's just like, long form lead after long form lead of people who have, you've already given them value. They've already gone.
Well, that's the thing is like, I think people get caught up in like, what's the why behind it? And they'll focus on the wrong thing. They'll be like, I'm busy enough right now. I got enough referrals. I got enough leads. So I don't need to generate business. And I'm like, it's actually, that's only part of the equation, is the ability to like market it and do it for customer acquisition. It's actually an efficiency situation where like when you're teaching your customers and your realtors about these things, you are eliminating future questions, or you're eliminating like, hey, when the borrower asks the realtor, now they're answering the question because they've seen your video and they know the answer, versus just saying, hey, go ask Matt. It becomes, there's a trickle down effect, is massive efficiency and less questions that you have to ask. And that is really kind of part of your deal, is like the ability to, when you have a predictable question coming your way, to stop it with a video, meaning, hey, disclosures are going out. Here's what's the next step is, like those kind of things that make your job more efficient.
And I want to do more of it too. Like Shelby and those guys are technology experts. And I had many conversations with him on, how we can record videos and, go over a loan estimate or go over a closing disclosure and explain that to clients, because you get the same questions over and over. And, from a industry expert, positioning yourself as an expert standpoint, there's nothing better than a realtor being like, hey, so-and-so is asking me about this. And you go, oh, here's a video I made. And you send a YouTube link. That's so awesome.
It is.
Subscribe to that. Tell your client to subscribe to that too, because there's other good information in there. And so, so many benefits from that. And I think, it's only recently I started mortgage in 2014, and I, told myself I'm going to make a Mortgage Monday video every Monday. And, and for anybody who's watching who doesn't do video, who's afraid to do video, like my first videos were such garbage. Looking back on it, I just, I didn't know any better. I just knew that I was going to make a video, and I was going to try to help people.
I'm the same way. Like Nicole Perano, you know, from my team, like she cuts up my original videos that I did, and she'll just send them to me to make fun of me. Like I was horrible. But the one thing I will tell everybody, and I know Matt doesn't care because he's just the ultimate winner, is that like go on his YouTube channel, go on his social feed, steal what he's doing. Like literally watch his videos and then record it from your voice and do the same thing, because like you don't need to write the playbook, guys. That's the one of the biggest things I tell people is like, if I was going to go start a brokerage today, I would literally sit there and be like, all right, I'm going to go to Shelby. I'm going to go to Matt Gougé. I'm going to go to Ben Lavender. I'm going to go to the people, Ryan Eller. I'm going to go to the people that do it great. I'm going to copy what they're doing, and I'm just going to do it under my umbrella. And that's okay. They put the hard work into like mastering it. So why not, you know, why not copy from them? They want you to, they want to see you succeed. So, you know,
yeah, I mean, me and Ben talked about it in Irvine too. Like if you can't think of ideas, you know, go to my page and look at different things. Like, oh, that's a good one. And it's kind of cool too. Like I'm trying to get better at talking to some guys that are, you know, more well-versed in the technology side and the keyword side and how to really, you know, target stuff. But it was just dumb luck on some stuff. I just thought to myself, I've been asked a lot of questions on like cash out refinance and whether it makes sense. So I'm like, pros and cons of cash out refinance. I made a video on YouTube and I think it's got like 62,000 organic views. Never paid YouTube or anybody to push it, but it was something people were searching, something that people wanted to know about. And so, you know, you can make that. I mean, you can go to my page and copy every single thing, but any loan originator who's talking to people, talking to realtors, talking to clients, is going to have the same question come up twice. And then you just go to your iPhone in your notes. You go, oh, I'm going to do a video on that because somebody asked it to me 3 different times. You know, what are supplemental taxes? What is, you know, can you transfer your property tax basis from mom to son?
How's escrow calculate? Like we know all the redundant questions that come over and over again. So I guess as a final takeaway here, first of all, we appreciate you coming through. Anybody that's interested, Matt did a broker to broker podcast, which you can find on the AIME website, which is aimegroup.com, AIME group.com. We'll drop a link to that podcast in the comments. It's a phenomenal podcast and definitely worth listening to. Matt, if you had to say, you know, for yourself, what is the one discipline, the one habit, the one contributor that, you know, on a day-to-day basis you try to stick to that helps you be a better loan officer, be a better partner for your referral partners, be a better expert for your customers?
I think it's conversations and reps. You know, I've got some newer loan officers in the office that are asking me about, you know, different things they can do. And, you know, it's, you get better at basketball by practicing basketball, and you get better at loans by practicing loans. And, you know, you have the same conversation over and over to where like, I forget that I'm even talking sometimes. It's just, you know, somebody asks me about, you know, how they should analyze whether or not a refinance makes sense. And it's like, you know, you have that same conversation 172 times, you're going to get good at it. And I think, you know,
that's a great point. That's like Michael Jordan when he used to close his eyes at the free throw line. Like he could just close his eyes and hit it because he's done it so many times that it's just, he knows what the result's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, and I think too, like I talked about earlier, I truly believe in it. Like if you go to the office and your intention is today, I'm going to bring value to as many people as possible. And, you know, you call your realtor partners and you think about, you know, things you can do that might help them in their business or advice you can give them, or, hey, you know, I know Joe Schmo from down the street. I saw him doing this. Like that seems like it's really helping him out with, you know, getting buyer clients, you know, or, you know, you call current like clients that are pre-approved and you say, hey, I just wanted to give you a heads up. Some things have changed, but I reviewed your scenario and, you know, this looks good. I also sent you over, you know, 430 and 450 loan scenarios because I talked to your realtor. He said you were looking at some houses in that range. If you have any other things you want to see, give me a call. Like just add value.
Yep.
And the rest takes care of itself. You know, from the very start, even when I was brand new and I wasn't doing a lot of business, the main focus wasn't like, how do I get the next deal? The main focus was like, if I add value to 15 people today and 15 people tomorrow and 15 people the day after, like over time, business is going to come. And what do you know, business comes. And so, you know, that's that's my thing. And I think now, like more than ever, this next month is going to be an interesting time because the conversations I'm having and the way that I'm adding value has changed a ton. If less buyers are purchasing in April, but I have 10 calls a week on mortgage forbearance or 10 calls a week on different things, then you just you add value, you have empathy, that's the way you build long-term relationships. I can't tell you how many times. I'll tell you a funny story about like just you talked about a client from Garden State Home Loans calling you. I submitted a refinance yesterday, and every time somebody calls me, they filled out an app, they called me, they emailed me. I'm always trying to track it in my system, like who referred you, and so it's like, who do I have to thank for referring you over? And this guy told me, he goes, well, you talked to somebody in my office and a refinance didn't make sense to them, but they were so impressed with how professional you were, how good of advice you gave them. Because I told them I wouldn't do a refinance in your position. Like that spread on current rate versus what you could get versus what it would cost. Not me personally. And they were impressed by that enough to where they told a colleague, this colleague is in a 5 1/8. So this colleague can seriously benefit from a refinance. But imagine like, if I didn't take the time to like really want to give value and tell that person, here's why it doesn't make sense and here's what I would personally do. And, let's put you on a rate watch list and maybe later in the year it will make sense. Whatever that conversation was, I don't remember. I didn't even ask who it was. I just know that like
You're
taking the time with everybody that comes across the desk to add value got me a referral. Like, you can't measure that stuff.
I think that is probably the single biggest mentality thing that people that are successful have is like, we're not a taxi driver. The meter's not running and we're not waiting for like you to stroke us a check. I had a conversation this morning with a broker who, texted me last night. Hey, got a big issue. Can we talk? Hopped on the phone with him, had a 15-minute conversation. And there's no like, hey, by the way, I'm sending you a Venmo request, send me $100 for that conversation. Like, that's not the way it works. It's like, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to talk about strategy. Like, we're going to add value. And in the end, you do it repetitively and you do it every single day. And then cumulatively, what the result ends up being is you end up being really, really successful. And even if you don't get like a deal in return or a referral in return, what you cumulatively get is like this aura of, that guy's a good guy. That guy is great at what he does. He cares. He's passionate. And at the end of the day, that's all we can want. That's all we can aspire to. The people that are very transactional, like the one frustrating thing that I can't stand is this. We'll end with this. But like, I'll have a loan officer, and I have when they work for me, I see them now. Brokers will hit me with this, and they'll be like, I worked with this client for 2 months, and they went somewhere else. What a horrible person. I'm like, listen, it's frustrating. Believe me, brokers, just so you know, how many people have I spent time with right now in the group that I have no financial benefit from? It's what you do. It's part of the deal. Like, you just do it, and that's all. And if they end up going, like, to me, like as a competitor, if I invested that much time, I would do the loan for zero or even lose money just to justify my time with that customer to hopefully get referrals. But like, it is what it is. It's part of the deal. Like you can't get mad at the customer. You have to understand that, like, if you add the right amount of value, hopefully they go with you. But if they don't, it shouldn't break you. I mean, it's part of the deal. You should always just have that approach, is always doing what is best for. I look at it as everybody. Like, this is a thing that Danny Harani said that we've adopted in our mindset here, is everybody's job is lead gen. Okay. So whether you're talking to the janitor, whether you're talking to a referral, a potential homeowner, it doesn't matter what their role is or who they are, you are adding value in some capacity that they're a potential client. Like you have to look at everybody as a potential client, and people that don't realize how much of an opportunity they're missing out, because you are your own greatest brand ambassador.
Right. Yeah. You go around, you add value, you talk mortgage, and then, I did a loan for the guy who managed the 7-Eleven. Just because I talked about mortgage when I went into 7-Eleven to get a black coffee, So before we end, I want to say too that, in the last 6 years, as I've grown my business, there's been so many people that have helped me along the way that if, any broker wants to chat for 10 minutes, I'm happy to do it. I remember talking to Ishbia, when I first came over to the broker side, I remember hooking up with you. And, you know, if you remember it or not, in 2018, I was brand new and we talked on the phone for like an hour, you know, and you were running Garden State Home Loans and took an hour to talk to me about like, here's my systems, here's how I do things. And so, you know, the least I can do, and my favorite thing about Brokers Are Better is the collaboration. Whenever we do a live event or, you know, going out to Philly, like talking in person to other brokers, you know, here's what this guy does in Florida that works. Here's what this guy does in Texas that works. I'm happy to, you know, jump on a call. And, you know, if you can't find my phone number online, then I'm doing it wrong. You know, Matt, the mortgage guy, if you Google that, you better be able to find me. You better be able to find my phone number. Text me. Hey, I'm a broker. I want to chat for 10 minutes on marketing. When's a good time? I'm happy to do that. You know, that was basically what I did when I started. Was I was brand new and I was like, man, this guy did 10 million a year. I want to talk to him and see what he does. And then the next year I did 12 million. And then I want to talk to someone who did 20 or 25 million. And, you know, I constantly, you know, sought out people that were doing something that I wanted to do and just talk to them about it. Cause, you know, it's the broker community, especially, and Brokers Are Better group is just super, the collaboration and the amount of, you know, hand, you know, down to help folks out has been awesome for me over the last 2 years. And if I can give back in any way or help anybody else out, I'm happy to.
And I will say, I do remember that call. I have like literally a ridiculous memory. I remember everything. And I remember having the conversation with you. And I will say that, like, at that time, like, just from a mindset perspective, like Garden State Home Loans, we were in obviously New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania. We're an East Coast company. You're in California. And I remember, like, when I was getting on the phone call, being like, at that time, we were busy as hell. We just hired a whole bunch of people. And I'm like, I got to get off this phone call in 15 minutes. Like, goal is 15 minutes. And we ended up talking for an hour. But the truth is, the reason why that happens, and it feels like it was only 15 minutes, even though it was an hour, is because when you do give and get, when you're just giving, it feels like a long time. When you're just putting it out there and you're not getting anything back, it feels like a long time. But our conversation was collaborative. You were providing value to me too. And I think that's the one thing everybody needs to take into consideration is, how am I adding value as well? How am I, you know, I had somebody reach out to me the other day and say, hey, on your videos that you post, the microphone, it's very hard to hear you. I was like, some people might think that's a critique. I thought it was adding value. I'm like, oh shit, somebody finally told me this. Let me correct this. I'm going to order a microphone. But like, add value in some capacity. There's always an opportunity. It doesn't matter who you are. But understand, like, your messaging and the way you communicate is such an indicator of what kind of energy you're putting out in the world. Like, when somebody just opens up with like a negative statement or like this sucks or that sucks, if you just change the wording on things, you, by asking and being like, you know, vulnerable, or, you know, just being like, hey, maybe I don't get it. Maybe I don't know. I've never learned. You can open yourself up to a whole different energy coming back at you. And that's what I try to tell people is, like, sometimes I'll see somebody write something and it immediately I'll be like triggered. I'll be like, man, like, this mofo is angry, miserable, bringing all this bad energy to my 6,000 people. I'm like, I got to get him out of here. So, you know, you bring positive energy. Every time I see you, I get a smile. So I appreciate you, man. Thanks for taking this 40 minutes to share with everybody. If you could, guys, Matt, the mortgage guy, check his social feed, check his YouTube. He's welcoming you to you know, copy his
subscribe to YouTube and copy all the videos.
Subscribe to his YouTube channel. And Katie actually shared the link to his podcast with AIME, the Broker podcast. So check that out. Again, we appreciate everybody. And Matt, thank you very much for this time.
Thanks for having me, buddy. Chat soon.
Have a great day, man.